Good morning, everybody. Today is July 8th, and today is the 31st episode of the Prove It Live podcast. I want to welcome you to today's show. We got a jam-packed show for you today. Lots of good stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to turn you over to my co-host, Mike Frary.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Prove It Live podcast. I'm Mike Frary from the Farm Baseball Performance Institute, along with the aforementioned Kevin McGovern here of Perfect Motion Sports Therapy, and our producer at large, Ryan Gagne. Real big show today. We got a lot to talk about, and coming off of our trip to Nashville, which we're going to talk about in a second. We missed our standard show last Thursday, so a lot's happened in between then and now. One of which, as we kind of kick it right off, is the College World Series. Ryan and I, the reason we didn't have our regular scheduled show last week was because both Ryan and myself were in Nashville, Tennessee for a baseball tournament for one of our 17 U teams. Boys played great, by the way. And at the same time we were in Nashville, Vanderbilt was in the College World Series playing Mississippi State. And Mississippi State, of course, won the World Series. Their first one. In fact, I think it was the first ever school championship, right? Right.
It was the first ever Division I, athletic championship.
Yeah. So it was an
entire program, entire school.
Yeah.
Really? Not track, not field hockey, nothing?
First ever. And
I know they're a field hockey powerhouse, but yeah, never. I was a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Really? That's wow.
Well,
Okay.
I always thought too, going back to, I forget, was it the 85 team with Rafi Palmeiro and Will Clark and
Thunder Lightning, baby.
Thunder and Lightning. And they had,
and they didn't win then either, right?
I think Brantley was on that pitching staff. They didn't win. And it's funny. I think a lot of baseball people out there think that they did, including myself. I sort of just thought that was a World Series championship, but they did not win the World Series. In fact, they're considered, generally speaking, the best college baseball team that never won a World Series. So they won.
Who else was on that team?
Brantley. There was
Thigpen?
Maybe. Yeah, I think he was.
Is there a Thigpen on that team? Maybe.
Guys, pull up that roster.
Yeah, I got it.
It's amazing how my mind works from like 30 years ago. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday.
I can't remember my brother's birthday.
Yeah, Bobby Thigpen.
Look at that. Clark, unbelievable. Clark, yeah.
Will Clark, Rafi Palmeiro.
All major leaguers, right?
Yeah, they were.
Yep,
Jeff
Brantley. Yep.
So Thigpen, All-Star, Brantley, All-Star, Clark, Palmeiro, Hall of Fame level guys.
Yeah. And who won that year then?
It's a good question.
Right? If it wasn't them, right?
It might have been Texas. Hang on, 85.
What year? So that was what, 80?
85. 85.
Miami won. Miami beat Texas. That's what it was.
Okay.
Also, Mississippi State wasn't even in the finals.
No.
Wow.
No. So, but that happens in the College World Series too. I mean, you have these, and that's why it's great. The College World Series is great. The tournament is great. I love the way that they do it. It comes down to hot teams, and obviously some deep pitching, but amazingly, you see guys, throwing complete games, coming back on a day, 2 days rest. It's such a big deal. But the controversy there, of course, Kevin, was that a lot of people thought Vandy should never have been there in the first place.
Yeah. So I was kind of loosely paying attention. So wasn't there a North Carolina State issue, right?
Yeah, NC
coached
State,
by Jim Valvano. No, sorry, wrong error.
Jesus.
The late great.
NC State was put into COVID protocol, so they declared Game 3 of that series a no contest and handed it to Vandy to move on.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Vandy comes out, wins Game 1. Okay, the 3-game series with Mississippi State.
Fairly handily too. It was an 8-2, and it looked like they were just going to roll.
Well, Leiter's dirty. Okay, so and you see how dirty he is by seeing what Mississippi State can do offensively. So the next 2 games, Game 2, they come out and put up 15 runs. I think
13-2.
All right.
So North Carolina State wins 13-2 in the next game.
No.
Mississippi State. Yeah.
Oh, Mississippi State. Sorry.
Yeah. And then, so, and we were down in Nashville. A lot of our boys actually went to the Vanderbilt campus and were watching on the big screen down at the baseball stadium. They were letting people on the field and watching the game, and we were watching on TV. And I remember saying to Ryan, I was like, geez, because I wanted to see Mississippi State win. They hadn't won it. And I was thinking, hey, slow down. Like, ease up on the offense, save some for tomorrow, because we've all seen it before. You see a team, you've even been part of teams where, you go off, you come up with 17 hits, 13 runs, and then the next day, you get blanked. And so but that didn't happen. So they came out and they put up a bunch of runs the next day as well. And it was like
9-0.
Yeah, the game was over after like the third or fourth inning.
Yeah.
And that was they had knocked Kumar Rocker out, which is Vandy's originally number one.
He's the other guy, right? That's supposed to be so good.
Yeah. Yep. But again, you really see how good Leiter really is. And interestingly, because one of the other things we want to talk about is that we have the draft coming up, is that Leiter's dropped, I think, number 2 in projections, right, over that shortstop, the 6'3" shortstop there. Where's he out of, Ryan?
I got it right here. Hang on. He's a high school kid.
Yeah, he's a high school shortstop. And interestingly, he was down at like the 4 or 5 slot, maybe even 6 slot, just like a week or two ago, looking at Baseball America.
It's Marcelo Meyer, shortstop out of East Lake High School in Chula Vista, California.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But
don't you two guys have a player that might be in this draft thing we're talking about?
We do.
Here?
Yeah.
We got a horse in the race, yeah.
You want to talk about that horse?
We have a good horse. Good horse in the race, yeah. His name's Jackson. Jackson Lynn. He's plays high school at Cambridge Ridge and Latin. He's been in our program since he was 11 years old. And actually is a rostered member of the 17U team that we took to Nashville. Of course, Jackson couldn't make the trip because he was at the MLB Combine, and then he was at another professional workout after that. But we think his stock's rising. I mean, he's been doing so well. I mean, he's putting up huge exit velocity numbers. He was number 2 at the Combine at 107 miles an hour. He was I think he had 4 appearances in the top 10 in terms of distance. He had a ball 430. He's a special player. He really is. He's 6'3". He's 200.
Now, when they were doing that, is that off a machine? Is someone throwing BP? Like, how are they doing that?
I'm sure that's all just overhand BP. They're not going to
overhand
machines.
BP.
Yeah.
Yep.
In one of the games that they played at the Combine weekend, he hit a triple off of the top of the left field wall. Exit velo was like 101, 102, something like that.
Now, he's a right-hand hitter? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Righty.
People looking for right-hand hitters for sure, for power.
He's near 100 miles an hour out of the arm from the outfield.
Wow.
He runs like a 6'6". I mean, he's got all the tools. He checks all the boxes. I mean, passes the eye test like that. But the cool thing about him is, when the lights have been on him, he's stepped up. He's not. He's cool as a cucumber. So we're watching intently. Obviously, we're
Now, do you think he might be a first rounder guy, a second rounder, or it all depends
asking
on?
Me, asking me, he should be. I mean, I've had the good fortune of having a lot of good player students in my program and kids who have gone on to pretty big high levels of baseball, and he's at the top of that list. I mean, he's a special kind of player. It takes all the things. You have to have the mechanical skill, but to get to that level, you also have to have natural abilities. He's got, and I saw this when he was 11, 12 years old. I remember talking to his dad about this. His hips move so fast, so quickly. You put it on video and you have slow-mo, and sometimes it takes 3 frames. His hips are there in like a frame.
The video you showed of me, he did something that I literally think that's almost impossible. Like when he's shifting weight from his back foot to his front, there's a time, obviously, if you go frame by frame, where you're floating, and you know what I'm saying, like a millisecond, his hips are still turning.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to pivot off, right? There's nothing like in the ground to rotate, and I'm like that. It looks like an optical illusion. They're still turning. It's amazing.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. He has those like innate abilities that, you can't teach. You can teach the sequence and make sure it's going first and all that stuff, but you can't teach the quickness of that, obviously. And that's something we saw early on, and something that makes him a special player, because then once he learns those mechanicals, which all the kids in the program ultimately learn, and the proper hand path, etc., then forget about it. It's over. I mean, he was, we've got an extensive Rapsodo history on him, and there were rounds where he'd, out of 10 swings, he wouldn't hit one below 100 miles an hour. This is front toss, not overhand. This is just front toss. The ball's going 18 miles an hour, whatever it is. Hit several balls over 400 feet. So it'll be fun to watch, to see where now he's committed right now to Tulane University. So, he's got a good spot collegiately. I know they love him there. So I think he's in a can't miss situation, but it'll be fun to watch. We'll update. We'll talk about this, of course, the podcast after the draft.
Now, the one thing you had mentioned too, I want to add is his parents, right? You said that his parents are involved, but not like certainly by any means helicopter parents in today's day and age of, where, they're standing behind the fence at the AAU game, filming every single thing. That's not his folks, right? Do you want to expound on that a bit?
So, yeah, I think it's, all of our real successful players, and this is just an observation. This is just facts. It could be a coincidence, but it would be a giant coincidence if it were. But the really successful players, the parents are really in the background, and they
letting you guys do your job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And, and you want them, his dad was taking video of him, as is all of our 17U players when they get to 16, because you need video to send to college coaches,
of course,
etc. But I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, there's so many pressures, anxieties for these kids that they don't need the added one of having to please mom or dad behind the backstop.
Right.
And that's really what we see. And he's, they sort of let him do his thing, and they put their trust in me to help, train him. And, and he's a really, I can't stress enough how special he is. And I think everyone's going to see it sooner or later, because I think he's no doubt he's going to be a professional ball player.
Well, we're definitely rooting for him. So that hopefully eventually I can get tickets through you wherever he plays,
So, all right. What else do we want to talk about? One thing I wanted to touch on is, speaking of Tennessee, right? So Nashville was my first time in Nashville. I think Ryan's first time in Nashville. Absolutely amazing city. Loved it. People were so nice. The weather was great. From a baseball perspective, the food's amazing. All the fields were just beautiful. I don't know where that line is in the country, right? But once you get to a certain, what's that latitude, right? Or below, the grass, they can use that hybrid grass at like Kentucky. What is it? Bermuda Blue in Kentucky, whatever it is. And what someone explained to me when I was in Georgia a couple of years ago, and because to back up for a second, I don't know if you've seen them, Kevin, but the fields down there, the grass is like 1/4 inch cut.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't dry. And it's malleable. So like it might get matted down a little bit, but the grass is still there. You're playing on, it's almost like a green. It's almost like a putting green. It's crazy. And
what?
Like a putting green?
Putting green.
Yeah, like mini golf, except for it's not artificial.
Okay. Yeah. I thought you were talking about golf for a second.
No, mini golf. But it's like, gotcha. But it's it's natural, not artificial. But someone explained to me that the reason why those two grass seeds are used is because one, it naturally only grows to about 1/4 inch, and the other one's a natural weed killer. Gotcha. But anyway, I don't know where it is, but it's not used up here. It's always, we only see it down south. And anyway, the fields were gorgeous. Just can't say enough good things about Nashville. We had a blast. I when in Rome. Right. So I was rocking my cowboy hat, as was Ryan. Had my you saw the picture, Kev.
Yeah. Please don't put that up on the air.
Oh, I was going to put it up. I was going to show everybody.
All right. Go ahead. I mean, do it at your own. People just, watch at your own risk.
Look, I don't
think it's the hat. I think it's the, like, go ahead. Do you have it up there to put up?
Of course I do.
Like, is it like,
this is
It's the sleeve cut off. I mean, yeah.
And that's a handsome man right there. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow. Just if you probably should delete that, but yeah.
A poor man's Larry the Cable Guy.
Yes, there you go.
I'm so much prettier than him.
I know.
So much prettier.
So I have a little thing so we have, I believe, and someone could challenge me on this, our second major league quality pitcher who elected not to be a baseball player and played currently in the NBA Finals. The first, I believe, is Scott Burrell, who I played against in middle school and high school as a baseball player. He elected not to go the baseball route and played in the NBA Finals with Michael Jordan. And our second, I believe, is currently playing right now for the Milwaukee Bucks, Pat Connaughton, who is a St. John's Prep standout, Notre Dame pitcher, clocked in the 90s throughout his career, elected not to go the baseball route, and is now playing in the NBA Finals. But I believe Mr. Burrell has a ring. We'll see if Mr. Connaughton can get an NBA championship ring.
He will. If he's on the Bucks, he will not.
And last, just because I had a text come in, someone who's listening, who said, "How did you guys do?" Team did well. Excuse me. We went 2-2. Should have been 3-1. This was our very first tournament of the year, because our high school season was delayed this year. And, not to make excuses, but just to give some, perspective. The first team we played, this was like their sixth tournament in a row. We were just a little bit rusty. So dropped our first two and finished strong, winning our last two. And in my opinion, at least the best team that we faced the entire time we were down there was our first win. Collection of kids from all over different states. I think there's like 5 states represented. So they did extremely well, especially for a group of kids, all from within like a 15-mile radius. So they're a very successful team already.
I've got a text from a listener.
Another one.
Yes. Who says, agreed, it's the shirt, not the hat.
That makes me handsome?
A listener is making fun of your shirt.
I think you're misreading that. I think they're saying like the shirt's what makes it. The shirt is what makes it.
Well, the person texting me is related to you by marriage. So I don't know, you may want to check what's going on, but someone's, making fun of you.
You've only narrowed it down.
Oh, sorry. Your wife is texting me, making fun of you.
But look, if you were my wife and you knew I was running around,
we can be.
No. Listen,
Massachusetts.
If you were,
yes, your wife.
First of all, that's legal everywhere. If you were married to me and you knew I was gallivanting around Nashville looking like that, wouldn't you kind of be? Yeah, you'd be trying.
I would definitely be calling.
Mike was getting dressed. Mike was getting dressed and would walk in front of the full length mirror and use his best Buffalo Bill voice from Silence of the Lambs. And I won't repeat the quote, but
false. That was another person in that hotel room, actually.
So we've talked about us being married and you getting dressed in front of our producer. Probably that's we're good with that talk for the rest of the podcast. But I'm comfortable. Yeah, exactly.
All right, real quick before we go into the main topic here, because I know we're about that time. I want to do a real fast rundown of a couple other sports stories over the past few days, weeks, whatever it's been. Last night, Tampa Bay Lightning won their back-to-back Stanley Cup, first back-to-back winner in a while. It's been. Also, I believe that they're one of the first, not one of the first, but first team to win the cup on home ice in several years as well.
Is that their second or third?
That's theirs. I believe that's their third over.
Right? Yeah.
Third over, but second back-to-back years.
But third overall. Didn't they win it a couple years ago too? That's what I mean. This is their third, I think.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Honestly, I should know the answer to that, and I don't.
Yeah, you're the hockey guy.
I know. I really am. Spectators were just barred from the Tokyo Olympics amid Japan's
a state of emergency.
For COVID-19. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out the next couple weeks here. And then, I've lost count at this point. But last night, it wouldn't be a podcast. It wouldn't be a Prove It Live podcast without talking at least briefly about a no-hitter in Major League Baseball. There was another combined no-hitter yesterday. It was of the 7-inning variety, so take
Doesn't count
for what it's worth.
Oh, I have a question about this. Go ahead, finish. I got a question.
But yeah,
I thought about.
the Rays completed a doubleheader sweep against the Cleveland. Are they the Indians still?
Indian, Cleveland something. Yeah.
So they had 5 pitchers, which 5 pitchers in 7 innings, right? That's a whole other philosophy there. 5 pitchers in 7 innings combined for the unofficial no hitter, which dropped Cleveland to 9 losses in a row.
Wow.
We're up against time. Otherwise, I would ask to see how many walks are in that game because 5 pitchers in 7 innings makes no sense.
So I got one question back to the no hitter. We had Baumgartner threw a 7-inning no hitter, right? That doesn't count.
Yeah.
So my question is this: what's the ERA calculated at? Because if you calculate
Still per 9 innings.
So that's wrong because it should be if you're calculating the ERA for it's a 7-inning game. So like Garrett Cole, who gave up 4 or 5 runs the other day in the 7 innings, really his ERA should be even more inflated because it's per 7, not per 9. So if you're gonna put the ERA at 9 innings, then you need to do something with the no hitter or something, right? Because how are you saying the game's 9 innings when it's not?
But it's just a standard because even leagues where you only play 7 innings, they still go by off the 9-inning ERA.
No, I don't think so. Not if you go to our little league, it's by the whatever did the
If so, that's
calculations by
changed.
7. Yeah, has it? Okay.
Yeah, if so, that's changed. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, all right.
Moving on.
Moving on. So we had a lot of positive feedback and a lot of questions based off our last podcast talking about our pitching avatar and people that thought it was a good idea, people that had more questions about, I know I had one was like, what do you mean an avatar? So I think first to explain what we're talking about. So there's so many models that you can use for hitting. Okay. And, you could take, and I've actually done this. I've had hitters, just the silhouette of hitters, and asked my players to identify who the hitters are and not their stance. I only show them from load position through their swing. They don't know. They're pretty much identical. All right. From after, their stance, they get in a load position and then go into contact. Pretty much anything. It's the stance, it's right before load, and then it's on the follow through, like obviously like an Ichiro's follow through. That's how you would identify him. He's a perfect example because he's the one that everyone thought swung differently than everyone else, but he didn't. His follow through was different. Anyway, so for hitting, there's this many models. You take pretty much any big leaguer. You can say, look, this is how you want to move as a hitter. This is where you want your hands to be. This is where you want your elbow to be. This is what you want your front hip to look like, et cetera, et cetera. With pitching, the same is true for a lot of the actual pitching windup and mechanics and the delivery, right? So like the leg kick, the front foot strike, all that stuff. But the one that's missing and the one that is most important, in our opinion, is what the arm does and where the arm is in certain points in the motion. And this is where we think there should be a model. And we're calling that model an avatar, right? And so that avatar would have exactly what the arm should look like, what the arm should be doing at every point during the delivery. And that currently does not exist. In fact, talk about the arm doesn't exist, right? Which we've beaten to death here on this podcast, but we're going to continue to beat to death because it's that important, because that's where the injuries are coming from. So Kevin, we talked last night about, talking more about like pitch smart things. And, I've been saying for a long time, I know you agree with me, Kevin, that the pitch smart, the pitch count thing really it gives a false sense of safety, I think, to little league coaches, to parents, to kids, because you just go, whoa, well, I'm within the confines of these numbers. And so, ergo, I'm safe. But not true, because kids throw differently. Kids with poor mechanics are going to be more susceptible to injury, et cetera. And so it made us think, where did this come from? Like, where did the pitch count come from? And it stands to reason that the research showed that, pitchers that thrown above X pitchers, pitches, 80 pitches, 90 pitches, whatever else it is per game, were at way higher risk for injury, right? The problem we have is that it's very much incomplete. That's a very incomplete picture of why people are getting hurt. Because again, we could have somebody that has such poor arm mechanics that they're throwing with all of their arm and none of their body, and they're long and they're dragging it behind their hips and etc. That pitcher shouldn't throw more than he could get hurt on the 10th pitch, on the 15th pitch. Right. And we could have people with like excellent throwing mechanics who could throw 200 pitches and not be hurt. And so this is why it's so important, is that we don't, the pitch counting is really incomplete to us. And Kevin, I want to talk about this on the air with you, is that, we started using a model a few years ago that was different. We touched on it last podcast or the podcast before, where it's, I think you called it, and it was a good way to put it, like goal-oriented pitch count. So we'll say, all right, we have a kid, no matter what age, if you're starting today, it could be the first game of the year, it could be April. We expect you to throw 7 innings. You're allowed to throw all 7 innings. And you go, well, that seems like a lot. However, we're going to have a pitch limit on innings. And so in April, let's say it's a 12-year-old in April, that pitch limit might be 12. Okay. So you go above that pitch limit and we shave an inning off the back. So now you can only throw 6 innings. You throw above 12 the next inning, and now you're only throwing 5 innings, etc. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but the reason we did that is because I think it's really important how many pitches, like how did you get to 85 pitches? Was it, or 80, let's call it 80 pitches, right? Was it 10 pitches an inning through 8? Right? Because that's a very smooth,
that's fantastic.
Light workload, right? Light workload. Or did you get to 80 and 3 innings, right? And one of those innings you threw 50 and 50 in the other. That's a lot of stress on the body. That's your body's getting tired. You're going to start to break, even if you have good mechanics, you're going to break down. Correct. So what do you think, Kevin, of the model that we're like implementing, which is goal oriented or per inning?
I've never heard of that model till you mentioned it. And I think it's like ingenious, truly. And, I don't like either one of you very much when I say that. So it really is, it really is ingenious, because first of all, it takes into consideration performance, right? Like you can go, you want to pitch the contact or whatever the goal of the outing is. Okay. If you got a flamethrower, okay, let's see if we can, hit all 4 corners of the plate, get in and out of there with, 2 swings, a bunch of call strikes, or you got a kid that's pitching the contact. Hey, let's see if we can get out of this inning in 7 pitches, 2 strikes, a ground ball here and there. It makes the player, number one, focus in on a goal, right? To just have an arbitrary number. Okay, at 80, he's done. When we've seen kids at all levels. We've seen kids from little league to post-college and men's league throw 40 pitches in an inning, and you're cringing every pitch after 20. But that player is still within this arbitrary limit of pitches that, again, you cannot talk about pitch limits without talking about mechanics. Okay, we talked about this off air. Besides a sport that's using some sort of device, like a car, a motorcycle, a bike, a horse, okay, pitching is pretty much the only athletic activity that, if done wrong, you could have a catastrophic injury, right? I mean, you're not going to get hurt shooting foul shots, okay? Right. You're not, other than that, I mean, you can make one pitch and blow out your arm, have surgery, and and now there's complications from that. Okay, obviously, if you're driving an auto in NASCAR, you can hit a wall at 250 miles an hour. That has another component to it. But as far as just using the human body, pitching is the most catastrophically injured position, right? If done wrong, and no one talks about its mechanics. No one talks about what should happen. I mean, I have a picture I'm going to put up on the screen now where people will talk about, which I absolutely hate if this is the terminology that people are using, okay, this hip to arm separation, right? Because that's hip to shoulder, okay? This is arm lag, okay? Here's the ball at, we would say, probably 59 feet. We have a fixed left leg. There's no more rotation. He cannot turn anymore. The only thing taking this ball towards home plate is this guy right here. And that is dangerous, very dangerous. And we have a leg locked to the dock, I call it. So if that's being taught, and I hear that terminology all the time, this hip to shoulder separation, what is carrying the ball? Right? It's the arm. The arm
Right.
can't do that. It's not a slingshot. It's not a golf club. It's not something that bends and has whip.
Right. No, I agree 100%.
So yeah,
And-
so 80 pitches like that guy that I just showed. No, we need to tackle him after 20.
Right. And that's the thing too. So, just to be clear too. So if a player has, once that number is reached, it's reset in inning. So let's say the limit is 12 pitches for the inning. They throw 13 pitches. That inning comes off the back end. If they go to 25 pitches in an inning, another inning's taken off. I think it's real important to understand that it should not be the same for a 12-year-old player, an 18-year-old player, a 28-year-old player. That's how it is right now. If this is, and by the way, where you are in the season, how many starts that player has had, how conditioned that player is, all should have
how coordinated that person is, how
That's
they
right.
move. All of these factors go in, not just pitch count.
That's right. And so if I have a 17-year-old player and it's the middle of, July and it's his, combined with high school, let's call it his 10th start, he's going to probably at like the 17 pitch limit or 18 pitch limit per inning. He's going to be higher, right? Because he can handle the workload more. And by the way, assuming his mechanics are right. And that's where the avatar comes into place, because
it's needed. It's
100%.
It has to get done.
Has to be done, because the arm path and most pitchers that I see these days, there's flaws, and there's some pretty big flaws, and there's injurious flaws.
And that's the question I get. Well, who would you model after? No one. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, like nobody. Well, what do you mean? Because no one is correct, and everyone's breaking. Because if people were correct, everyone's breaking down. Every single day, someone's going out with some sort of injury throwing a baseball.
And so, for the sake of just sharing information and for people to understand what we're striving towards, and for people to understand, we did talk about some people. Now, when it's all said and done, this may be, and we're still looking at this and studying this. It may be you have the lower half of, and I'm just making this up, like a Mariano Rivera. You might have the core of someone else and the arm path of someone else. But I can tell you, in terms of an arm path, the one that I've always gone to was Roger Clemens, and that was really just purely his arm path. And because he did a very good job of keeping his arm in front of his body, he never brought it back behind his body. At least, in the height of his
career. He threw like he was up, like he had his back up against
like
a
wall. Back up against. It's a perfect way to say it. Like his back is like, so his elbow's not hitting the wall, and everything stayed in front. And when he turned, his arm just turned with him, which is supposed to be. It's how you're supposed to do it, so that when the arm actually is moving, it's only moving forward and down. And by the way, I would tell you that's why he pitched as long as he did. And a lot of people would say, oh, well, he was on steroids. That's why he pitched. No. Do you know how many people who are on steroids who were gone from the sport because of injury? Less than half of his career. Right. That's not helping you. In fact, if anything, you could make the argument that steroids would increase your chance of injury, because the smaller little muscles and, like parts of the rotator cuff, they can't keep up with how fast the other muscles are growing. So you could make the argument that it would almost put him at a greater risk of injury, but he had very, very, very good arm mechanics. And I think Ryan mentioned one last podcast too, which was John Lester. And especially during his days with the Red Sox and his first couple years with the Cubs, absolutely. Another excellent example. And again, can they be better? Yeah, I think they could be even better, but those are two guys to look at just as in comparison.
But again, what's better?
Like a Strasburg,
right? Well, what's better if we don't have something to be? Oh, this is the best. This is where it should be.
Right. Which is what we're working on. But just to give you an example, if you want to say, okay, well, what in what realm are these guys talking about? Like what's in general do they want to see out of an arm path? And as an example, so a John Lester at Roger Clemens compared to like a Steven Strasburg, and you see a lot of guys throw with like the Steven Strasburg, especially pre-injury, and he has shortened up a little bit. Someone obviously told him like, hey, you want to have this, not happen again. You got to work on this. But the shrugging of the shoulders, the elbows up in the air like this,
which of course, as we talked about last week, is coached movement.
for
Because
sure.
no one picks up a ball and does this. Nobody.
Do you remember a really good pitcher, Mark Pryor for the Chicago Cubs, 2003? Excellent pitcher. And he was sort of the model. He was the avatar. He was the avatar for how they thought you should do it at the time, which was they call it the inverted W, same as an M, but
Yep.
it's literally like this.
Yep.
And they were taught to do that.
Yep. And we saw unfortunately what happened to Mr. Pryor's career.
What happened to everybody that had that sort of
Well, you know what's crazy, and again, this is just the way the world works now in professional sports. I mean, he did that, right? And you saw what happened to his career. And what is he now? Oh, he's the major league pitching coach for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yep. Right.
It's it's insane. And that's the other thing too. We talk about, again, if we go back to just, not to beat a dead horse, but the quarterback he used to play in this town, I don't know too much about his
Doug Flutie.
Yeah, Doug Flutie. I don't know too much about his, trainer, but Guerrero, they pound on him, right? But yet he's got his protege has a guy, again, except for someone a freak rolling into the back of his knee, has played in the National Football League for 3,252 years and still playing, right? Injury free.
Mm-hmm. And again,
that's the guy that we should be up like, oh, this is the avatar, but instead he's shunned. And the guys who I see up on their websites with, I work with this guy. Well, he's out of Major League Baseball at 32, or he left Major League Baseball because he's hurt. How is that an example of what to do?
Right.
That's an example of what not to do. Right.
Yeah.
It seems that baseball glorifies bad results. Oh, well, he worked with so-and-so. Well, okay. Well, so-and-so only played till they were 31.
Right.
Or 32 and became ineffective after 28.
Well, but
couldn't stay on the field.
That's because they're looking at the wrong thing. They're looking at he's working with this guy. His guy, he makes guys throw 98 miles an hour, 99 miles an hour. Okay. First of all, no, he doesn't. But fine, for the sake of argument. Okay, cool. You're looking at the wrong thing. Okay. Because having the ability to throw 99, but not being able to do it because you're on the bench, because you're hurt, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that's the problem is we've gotten so velocity, crazy, that it doesn't like no one cares. In fact, I hear countless pitching coaches go, I don't care what the arm does. Forget the arm. The arms, that's a natural thing. No, it's not. They're all taught. Because again, and I know you said this, when you see a kid, 3-year-old, pick something up to throw it, they never come way back here.
No.
Your shoulders up.
And they certainly don't do this.
Right.
or
exactly.
This. Right.
Exactly.
They just pick it up and fling it. Right.
So it's probably the most important thing, I think, in our sport right now because of the injuries. Look, I had a kid. I don't want to say his name. Ryan may remember who it was. This is only a few years ago. This is a lefty, okay, that was on his way to throwing 96, 97. He was already throwing like 88 when he was 14 as a lefty, and he was like 6'1".
That's Division I scholarship right there. Numbers, right? As a lefty, right there. Yep.
So he was 6
as a lefty. That's first
drafted. That's drafted.
Pick.
Yeah.
Well, it gets better. So that's at 6'1", 6'2". He grew to be 6'6". Okay.
Oh, are you serious?
Serious. All right, and we knew this. We knew like he was going to be a tall kid, and he ended up basically throwing baseball away. His mom had him pick up golf. And again, all jokes aside, I'm not trying to that's fine. He's going and he's having a good golf career at college.
He's playing golf in college.
But this kid had a free scholarship, a free college or a blank check on his left shoulder. And what happened was there was just the first faint, sight of some elbow soreness. And it was known because he did not have great mechanics. He had so much laxity that he had a hard time staying in front, right? But we were working on with him. We were going to get it fixed, but his mom was like, you know what? Nope. Like, no, we're not doing that. My son's not getting surgery. He's not I don't want to go there. And so, yeah. And so just the thought of this and I'm sure that he's not the only one or the only parent out there that's going, no, shut it down. He's not doing that anymore. Right. So this is an issue that's creating players from walking away from the sport or at least walking away from the position. And we don't want that. And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. One thing that, like I said, Kevin and I are working on this avatar. One thing I'm doing is I'm looking at all the organizations. I haven't done colleges yet, but maybe I will. But looking at the organizations and looking at the injuries, all right, and seeing what organizations have the most pitching injuries, and then studying those pictures. And I can tell you what I'm going to see. I already know what I'm going to find, Kevin.
Yeah. Arm path. And you're also going to find people, like we talked about a couple podcasts ago, people in the organization with names like rehab pitching coordinator that studied political science in college. Okay. You're not rehab anything. Okay. I don't care if you took a bus from the Durham Bulls to the Jacksonville whatever in the minor leagues. That qualifies you to be absolutely nothing to use the word rehab in your title. Okay. Rehab means you went to college, you have a degree, and you have a license to practice some rehabilitation medicine.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, there's lots of loose turtles out there too. And again, it's, not to get into the weeds on this or dig this back up, but just the idea of like these pitching coaches trying to sound like they're doctors on social media and, talking about, what the pitchers are doing to the valgus nerve and all this other and thoracic outlet, and stop it. Just stop it. Stop it. Instead, let's try to teach people how to throw the right way. It's not hard. And when people say that throwing is an unnatural motion, since the beginning of human history, okay, we were throwing spears at animals to live and to survive. I mean, it's not an unnatural motion. We've been doing
tennis
it
again. Tennis,
yeah. Right? Tennis. But I'm saying even just like a natural,
the dawn of time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Tennis,
right.
cricket, hurling, all this stuff. Okay,
yeah. So again,
I want to see hurling make a
comeback.
I don't know if comeback is the right word.
I was in Ireland and watched. That's an impressive sport. I don't know any of the rules, but it's impressive.
I grew up in a very Irish town, and I used to see it played literally every day. In fact, at Rogers Park, where
they played there, right?
Met, they would play there all the time.
Yeah, that's an impressive sport for sure.
Yeah. So to come. Right. So we've got more to come.
Yeah, we'll definitely have more to come for sure.
But in the meantime, look at those two pictures. You'll get an idea of what we're talking about for arm path. And again, not perfect. And I know depending on where you see John Lester, he did get a little bit more elbow kind of backy a little bit. But if you look at his days with the Red Sox.
And he got elbow backy, and guess what happened to his numbers?
Exactly.
They shot the bed, right?
Yep.
They shot the bed. He was definitely a better pitcher when he was with the Red Sox.
Good point. That's the other thing too, is when your arm is in front of your body, you're making a circle for you, but you're also going to have better control and command. And the reason is because you're keeping your arm on one linear plane this way, right? So I can see
just like a pitching machine,
right? Yep. You can see where this ball's going. When I come back here and I have to come back around in an S, gets a little wonky.
Exactly. So we certainly welcome comments. We've been getting people have been texting and emailing, but certainly to email the show, it's info@proveitlive.com. We would love to, if you have examples of people, we'll definitely, or suggestions or comments, queries, we'd love to hear about them.
Absolutely. And by the way, and if anyone wants, I do have the, this pitching program, this pitch count program that we use. I have that. If anyone's interested, I'm happy to give information on that.
That's the number one. That is a great philosophy. Like literally fantastic. Everyone should adopt that.
Yeah. That's the
goal.
Hey,
is it time?
Nope.
Always out of order. See, I didn't.
So excited.
I get excited for that. What do we got? What's next, producer?
So, we had a question from our California doc, I think, right? For me?
Yes, we did. Well, yes. So we have Dr. Ed, the chiropractor from NorCal.
It was more of a statement, but I did want to address it just so to be clear.
Yeah. So you had talked about Michael Brantley,
right,
as being, your guy for swing, and he had, of course, like me too, said, well, what about Barry? What about Barry Bonds, who is now a dog trainer?
He's like 80 pounds. Yeah.
And he had a dog in that Westminster dog show. But, what about his swing? He's asking a question about, what about him compared to Brantley? Are they the same?
And that Barry seems to do all the things that I recommend, and I would say, and that's correct. Okay. So First things first is I don't have just one guy that I'll use. I tell my players all the time, hey, especially new players, if I have someone, in fact, I just had a kid yesterday. I told it was the first session I had with this guy. Excuse me. He's a 14-year-old kid. And I told him, hey, everything I'm telling you, do not take my word for this. I want you to go home. I want you to look up your favorite big leaguers, and you're going to see them do exactly what I'm asking you to do. So that's number one. Is I don't like to just choose one. Brantley is a good example for me because at least appearance wise, he doesn't seem to be on any performance enhancing drugs. He's not I don't think he's a superstar athlete in terms of just raw talent. Someone like a Barry Bonds or someone we were just talking about earlier about, my player that's just had super fast hips that you could see that you can't teach. Okay. I don't think Brantley's any of those things. I think Brantley without perfect mechanics maybe isn't he's certainly not an all-star like he is. And he's maybe not in the big leagues. And so a guy like Barry Bonds, the thing with Barry Bonds is if you use him as an example, everyone's going to say, well, yeah, he was on steroids, clearly an HGH. True. He was, right. And that absolutely did assist him. Anyone that says it doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay. Absolutely. It's going to help you. It's going to increase your bat speed. So if your vast bat speed is faster, you can see the pitch longer. That's a gigantic advantage. Okay. But again, not to get in the weeds with that. With Barry Bonds, he does do all of those things. However, you wonder if you take the HGH away, if you drop 40 pounds off of him, is he like a Michael Brantley? Right. I don't know. But I like to use the guys that, where I think they clearly have to really focus on their mechanical abilities in order to succeed at the big league level. So that's why. But Barry Bonds, absolutely beautiful swing, right? And doesn't do anything wrong. Amazing hips, probably the fastest hips maybe ever in the game. I mean, it was ridiculous how fast he could turn his hips. And so that's something, again, that you can't teach, but he had the mechanics to go with it. Add the enhancement, because in all fairness, everybody was on the enhancement at the time,
including pitchers,
right?
Don't forget that.
I don't want to point him out like he was just saying, no, everyone's doing it. So everyone's doing it, but he was Barry Bonds, and he also had, he was mechanically near flawless. So you put those things together and you get a Barry Bonds. You get 73 home runs, whatever.
Did his swing change? Do we ever have a Pittsburgh Pirate Barry Bonds compared to a San Francisco Giant Barry Bonds? Do we have a side by side? Does mechanics at all change with whatever?
No, not really. Didn't. Now you'll probably find videos that will, and this is the scary thing about looking at videos online, is that you can find anyone in a swing, right? Let's say that you go, oh, this swing's different from 5 years. You see them do it on like if you watch MLB Network or if you watch ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, and they go, oh, so-and-so, he's in a funk. Now let's look at him 3 weeks ago when he was hitting. And you see that the 3 weeks ago.
Oh my God, look at this.
Well, hold on. You see the 3 weeks ago swing. Yeah. It's grooved down the middle and they crush it. And then the one they compared to now where he's like chasing one out of the zone. It's like, well, you're not going to have.
They're not the same.
No.
Look at this. Look how thin he is. Oh my God. But
same,
dude. I mean, same swing, same hip clear out. My goodness.
Same swing. His bottom hand was better with the San Francisco Giants.
Brian, run that back. Oh my! Look at this. Chokes up first of all. Pow, dude. His belly button is in the other dugout before the pitch even gets there. Look at that. That's amazing.
So fast hips, but you can watch his bottom hands. His bottom hand's not where it was.
Like we can talk about what Mike talked about earlier with like that. Our man offline, like his front foot, right, coming up.
Yeah.
As long as the heel's down, you're good. And again, and that's all post contact too. But keeping that front wall with the right hip so that his left hip can transfer energy up.
Right there.
Look at that. That was like a check swing for.
Yeah, but look at his bottom. See his hand path? Like that's not good hand path.
No,
sorry, it's not. Look at that. He came around that with his top hand. His bottom hand finished.
Yeah, it looks like he got fooled on that and still hit it fine.
Well, also in the era, it was probably being taught to him to swing level with the ground, and so he was trying to do and finishing down here, which you don't want to do. And then, of course, as he got into the 2000s, whatever, starting all the home runs, he was finishing up and back.
Right.
And, and there were times, of course, he still went this way, but as a general rule, like you want to finish
Look
up.
at this.
Look at the size of him, dude.
The
That's
slow motion
silly.
video.
Look at how big he is.
He's a bodybuilder.
Oh
He's
my
an
God.
absolute
The
bodybuilder.
bat looks like a toothpick, first of all.
It
You
is.
He's-
said what? He's like a 32 or 33.
He's,
Right?
he's
he's
a
only a
32.
32, yeah.
Look at the load. Look at his back foot.
His hands will come back up. People will think it's a hitch. It's not. That is not a hitch, boys and girls.
Look at this.
Backside rotation,
Ugh.
barrel drag, whip. He followed that off, but look at where his hands
Oh,
finish
yeah.
now. See how his hands are finishing?
Yeah,
compared
way
to
up,
Pittsburgh did? Yes.
way up tall. Yep.
Yep.
A weird video.
And
of him
look,
to
look,
share.
look where his belly button would be. It's almost it's
In the dugout.
in the
Yeah.
dugout or in the camera well. Yeah, look at that.
Which again wouldn't teach that either, right? Because you're now becoming too rotational
Too
and you're
rotational.
not being linear enough to stay through contact. But he followed that off. But you can see the big difference in the hands, and so definitely made a change there in terms of his hand path. And again, maybe that was that one game with Pittsburgh. Maybe he was in a slump. I don't know. Well, he wasn't because he had 2 home runs. but you get the idea. Is that so?
Right.
You really get to see a whole body of videos from someone to really see what they look like when they swing.
All right. Well, I'm
Hope
sure,
that answers that.
Doctor, I will appreciate that question, that answer for sure. Thank you.
Keep him coming, by the way. I love
Yeah,
it.
we like it.
Love that he asks questions all the time.
I'm going to show one more just because this is off of, that's not the right button. Off of my namesake here.
Is that you in the boat out there? Look at
Yeah,
you.
fast forward to it.
Look at you. Oh,
Yeah,
there
look-
he is. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Booyah. See ya.
Same
Look
thing.
at
Bottom
this.
hand finish. Yeah. I think that was the 73rd, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Was that?
Think
that
so.
Really? Dude, look at he's like.
Maybe not.
No,
But listen, you gotta.
Oh,
here's,
yeah. 60.
here's what you got to give him. Like, I understand the whole steroid thing, but dude, he played outfield every single day. Like there's no DH, so it's not like some of these other. He did play 160 games a year.
No,
I'm
yeah.
sure the steroids helped that, but it's not like he was on the bench just hitting.
Yeah,
he
but
was
who
out there
doesn't?
playing. Yeah,
So,
well,
Babe Ruth. I mean, look at Otani. He's pitching and playing. You know what I mean? Like,
that's insane.
so although I don't like that they're like literally comparing him to Babe. Joe Madden says, we've all fantasized about BC and Babe Ruth play, and now we're seeing it. Like, no, you're not.
yeah,
Let's not be silly.
Yeah,
Guy who was the best pitcher of his generation and the best hitter of his generation, and a guy who would have 50 home runs, where the second guy would have 18.
right,
Like, come on, right?
right.
Let's not
That's true,
indoctrinate
so.
the guys just so fast. All right. Anyway, now
Wait, now
it's
Let me-
time.
I want to make sure. Is it now?
I think it's now. Is it
I
now?
want to make sure. I mean,
How about now?
We have
What about
your tip of the week, movement of the week.
How about
Yeah,
now?
I think we're running short on time, so let's just go to our.
We'll go
Is
to
it
the,
now? Is it now?
It's now.
It's now.
Why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
Let me just cue up the screen here again.
I like. First of all, I like Dad half asleep on the pitching mound over there in the corner. That's the first. That's the first thing I noticed.
I didn't even notice that until right now. I've watched this video 20 times.
Like, are his legs up on like an ottoman? Because that'd be
I
kind
don't know.
of.
I want to know if he has jorts.
Yeah,
can't really see.
what's going on? With that?
I'd bet dollars to donuts those are jorts.
They're cargo shorts.
What is a
Come on.
jort?
A jean short.
Jean shorts. Come on.
Those are making a comeback. I heard John Cena's been lucky. His shorts are coming back. All right, so what are we looking at here? Again with this half follow through thing. I can't stand. But go on.
All right. I can tell you what the half thing is. I'll tell you
All
what
right.
that is. So they're trying to, and I can tell you right now, this little guy, he's gonna be all right. He's gonna be a good little hitter. He's got a really good little swing here. Okay. What we're gonna point out and why would you do that is, and this back foot, they've got a weight up against it. Now, for the life of me, I cannot understand why that would be. In fact, it's hampering his back foot from turning, and you want your back foot to turn.
Do you
If you're
think this
watching
is-
this
he's a
episode,
swayer?
if you're watching this episode, you can rewind and go see those Barry Bonds videos again. And you can see his back foot is not doing that. Okay. If he's a swayer, that's only going to make him sway more because it's going
Right.
to make him go forward.
course.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So I don't know why you would hamper that back foot. Now, to answer your question on the half swing thing, what coaches are trying to do is they're trying to prevent rollover. A lot of kids will get their elbow pointed here and roll, and so they just want you to kind of go through with your palm up, and that's hard to do full stop right all the way through.
I gotcha.
Perfect example is a guy like, so this kid appears to be swinging with two hands. And so two hand swingers like a Mike Trout's a good example of a guy who gets all the way through full extension, palm up, palm down, and then he never rolls his wrist. So he'll get to about here and that's it. He'll like kind of go about halfway, which is what you want. You want to stay palm up, palm down as long as possible. So you're driving through the ball, you're getting good backspin, because when you start to roll, it's when you get topspin. So again, this is like drill for the sake of doing drill. There's no reason to have that on your back foot. The only thing that I could imagine is that he's trying to keep him on the inside of his back foot.
Right. That's what I
heavy
think too.
Ramp, but that's not the way to do it, because I think if anything, he's going to more roll off into his pinky toe because that weight's. In fact, it kind of looks like he's doing that a little tiny bit. One more time, Ryan, if you could play that.
Should be autoplay.
You could play it, yeah.
And now
you can see the back foot wants to come up, the heel wants to come up and turn so he can get his hips cleared, but that thing's not allowing. You see his foot's getting stuck. I think that's why they're doing it. I think he's trying to make him not pivot. You hear the word pivot nowadays, Kevin, and everyone goes like, "Oh, pivots. You don't want to squish the bug, stupid." Like, yeah, if that's all you're doing and you're not connecting it to your hip rotation, but as your hip turns, your foot should turn. And actually, if you do it right and you got a good front foot, your back foot's even going to lift off the ground.
And the only thing I don't, from my perspective, I can't, the camera angle's not the best, but that right hand, I think there's too much upper trap involvement here. Both you can definitely see in the left, like his trap is up by his chin. I think it's probably if you roll this and watch his hip turn, his hands lag behind. I think because they're as you go ahead and if you turn, his hip moves, but then the hands are a little bit late because I think they're like here instead of just here. You know what I mean? Maybe.
Yeah. We don't hate. I mean,
no,
I don't want late hands, but you definitely want to make him. You go run it again, Ryan.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, it's pretty good sequence, pretty good sequential motion. And now one thing is his left shoulder definitely pulls, but you see that like literally 99 out of 100 hitters, you're going to see that. It's just, and we talked about why I think that is, but
and
guys get a good little swing.
And that back foot, where that weight, if you start him at the beginning, it looks again that he has most of his weight on that pinky side of his foot.
Yeah. And it's getting stuck. You can see it's getting stuck.
And, and I would fix this by not having the weight there. I'd fix this by getting him to, even if it's a little more an inch into that back hip, get down a half an inch to really sit through that back, where that hamstring meets that glute, that right at that spot.
Right. Yep.
That's where he wants to sit into. Because that's going to control the foot. What's happening now is that knee is probably he's more quad dominant in this position. To be lack of a better term.
Yep. You want your muscles on your backside to be engaged, not the front. That's 100% true. And yeah, and that's the other thing too. Now we do this as well. We call them stop motion swings. And what that means is we're going to have you load, freeze, not load, swing. We're going to have you load, freeze, make sure you're in a good position, and then take your swing from like a what's that, a static position.
Yeah, so I do the same with pitching too. Stop and then finish from there. Yep.
Right. Because the other thing was, to see what it's all. But look at, we're really talking more about the drill than the kid, because the kid has a good little swing. He obviously puts his work in. And that's I don't know how old he is, but he doesn't look like he's much older than 12. Maybe 13. Maybe he's on a smaller size of 13, but he's ahead of the game with that swing for sure. He's going to be all right.
It's going to be all right, Spider. All right, good. All right, guys. Well, good show. So just a word, I'm heading to the Jersey Shore. So our show will not be Thursday, but we are going to try to do something on Sunday night that we'll have posted because this Avatar is a hot topic that we don't want to lose steam on.
And I think it's safe to say, Kevin, that our summer schedule is probably going to be like this, right? So we've got trips, we've got tournaments, we've got vacations. So our summer schedule, we're going to be doing Thursdays still mostly, but we're going to have definitely some weeks where we're going to be doing alternate night. We'll always keep you updated as when that will be.
Absolutely.
So, Kevin, are we going to be resuming our golf in 2 weeks?
Well, I'm still sour from my drive on 9 that none of my playing partners could tell me where the ball went.
Told
still
you
sour.
exactly where it was. You didn't look.
I'm still sour. I was at I think I needed a par to break
All right,
38.
guys, it's been a great show. Thanks, everybody.
I'm still
We'll talk
sour.
to you again
So I don't know.
next week.
We'll see. We'll
All
see.
right.
I mean, I see Bryson DeChambeau looking in the forest for Aaron Rodgers' ball. I can't have someone even say, "Hey, it went over there." Nothing.
Quite literally told you exactly where the ball
Mhm.
went.
Yep.
I couldn't be more specific in saying,
And
"Hey,
my
you
other
hit it
two-
over by that tree
And
right
my
there."
other 2 players,
By
I
the
don't know.
way,
I don't know where it went.
That's the problem, folks. He didn't hit it in the fairway. He hit it in the trees. And I told
did.
him what tree to go to. I said, it's that tree right there. That's where the ball is.
Can't-
Hey, can I
drove
interject?
over there.
Can't
Can I
make
interject?
perfect swings every time. Yes,
You know
go ahead,
what's
Seth.
what the only thing more riveting is golf talk about you two. Let's see everybody next week. Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna bring Mike along for one of these trips.
Sure.
Oh, I hope not. But
Can't
yes.
wait.